Okay. My reflection is connected to discernment that the community here in Portland of Shambhala is doing and practicing. So this is a supportive effort from my experience to help that collective discernment. Shambhala has two words that I think is the core of what I know about Shambhala, in this case, the Shambhala Buddhist. Enlightened society. Enlightened society. So I was thinking and I was feeling, how can we unfold those words from our experience? Enlightened is very tricky word. It's interesting. I come from Peru. I'm original from Peru. And in Peru we have 42 languages. One is Spanish. Then the other ones are from the first peoples that have been colonized, oppressed, and exploded, like in many places. One of those languages is Quechua. My grandfather and my grandmother spoke Quechua, and also Spanish, but they didn't taught my father to speak Quechua, because there's a lot of discrimination if you speak Quechua in my country, in Peru. But in this resisting language, Quechua, that 4 million people still speaking it in Peru, there's a word that is, I think is analogous, a homeomorphic, I don't know how to say this, to enlighten, and is when the woman gives birth. I'm translating in English, so it doesn't make sense. But in Quechua, is enlightened. Is enlightened is the act when the woman gives birth. So it's very interesting, because in Old English, giving birth is connected to giving lineage to the man, giving descendants to the man. In Quechua language, enlightened is woman giving light to the world, in each of us. In each of us. So I want this time to reflect on what I'm saying, because it's very important to deconstruct the patriarchy of this category, enlightened. Let's try it from a woman perspective that has been most in history discriminated. So that's why we don't think from other perspective. But in this language can help us. So intercultural pieces can help Buddhism to re-understand some categories that can help us. So this is an effort of contribution. Okay. When a woman enlightened, give birth, but enlightened, light, put light in the darkness, in each of us. She has been making room in her body. So it's connected with space. Like reality. There's a sunyata, emptiness. It could be understand different with an enriching perspective of a living empty space that is enlightened. Making room for the other to be other is enlightened, is lighting, shining, but not the shining of the king in their throne. No. Let's think making room so the other could be the other. Because in human history, what happened is when I find the other, I start, based on my fear, I start thinking my enemy, we need to destroy it. Or we need to mimetize the other to my culture, my symbols, my language. So this is very important. Being enlightened is being empty. Like the womb of a mother, making room to enlighten and shine a person for the world. Each person is enlightened. And being enlightened is being against the death project that killed, that massacred people in the world. Let's try to explore the last 11 minutes that I have. Because I'm trying to connect peace, Shambhala, Buddhist festival. I hope I'm getting it. Space. All of us rely on other. I would have not been here if my mother would have not made room in her womb, in her body. So because I rely on my mom and my dad, I am here. But not only them, many people have been making room for my word. Today, my friends that I love have made room for a Peruvian talking about Buddhism in Portland. Interesting. That has been the capacity to see that my friends in some way inspire me, that they are enlightened and say me, Juan Carlos, you have light to share, like all of you. So all of you rely on people. Mindfulness, being mindful, for me means, and not for me, I think it's in Sanskrit, means remember. Remember what is your ground. I remember in the southern Mexico visiting an indigenous community. Well, indigenous is a colonial word, like First Peoples in Mexico. Asking me this question, where is your umbilical cord? And coming from urban places, I cannot imagine where is my umbilical cord. But they mention where your umbilical cord is buried, that's your territory. So being mindful is kind of similar. Where is your umbilical cord? Is being grounded in all the people, the beings, everything that we rely on. Is relying on the empty space, or this sunyata space, like it's connected with the womb of the mom that makes room for enlightening. So if we need to be aware of not being trapped by the tendency to understand enlightened a path of perfection over against others. We need to understand enlightened being a space, being nothing, so the other can become the other. in global violence now, because today we celebrate peace. And yes, Buddhist practices help us to reconnect, to remember whom we rely on. Is that okay? The construction that I did in English? Okay. Whom we rely on. Remember. Remember has another connotation also. When a body is dismembered, a body could be dismembered. We could be dismembered from nature. So being mindful could help us to remember the despised bodies that are in our society because they have been blamed, because they were trying to be other. So, silence and shamatha practice and Vishpayana practice and understanding pratitya samutpada, the co-emergence of all of us, is connected to bringing the despised bodies to my heart, to our heart. Because mindfulness could be understood, I think in Chinese, it's connected to heartfulness. And in some First Peoples culture, they said the person who speaks from here doesn't have authority, needs to speak from here. So heartfulness, when we talk about our lovely people, we say, I keep you in my heart. In español es recordar, te voy a recordar. Like, recordar means I will give circles in my heart from you. So mindfulness, the practice shamatha, Vishpayana, and all the key Buddhist practices from Hinayana and Mahayana can help us to be heartfulness. Recordando, bringing back this dismembered, interbeing body that has been separated because of fear. And now I'm going back to Shambhala teachings connected with this. Is about overcoming fear. So mindfulness is helping us, or the fruition of mindfulness is connected also to overcoming fear. Or a knowledge about the fear but not trapped by the fear. Acknowledge the otherness but not trapped by my fear against the other. But being free to get in a profound encounter. So I'm going to mention 3 people that I met in the community from Shambhala Portland Center that helped me to trust, explore more the Buddhist teachings here. But I'm very happy that the Shambhala Center is doing a discerning process related to some problems that have happened in the global arena. But that's what I'm trying to connect and contribute to that discerning with this approach. I will mention first Mark. I will not try to avoid the last names, but Mark, I arrived one day looking for meditation, a silence moment, because I work with other faith communities, religious communities, organizing, leadership development, many things. I was looking for a peaceful moment for meditation, and I arrived at that center. And Mark was alone, and I said, I want silence and meditate. Okay, let's wait more people because this is the time for meditation, public meditation. And then he was the only one. And he said, I'm going to do it with you. So we sit for an hour, both together. I haven't met this guy before. And at the end, The silence have been connected us. It's not a silence that isolated me. That's what I like, the practice of meditating with the open eyes, with eyes open. The silence doesn't isolate me. The silence opens the door for encounter. So thank you to Mark. The second person that I remember being mindfulness about this person is Carol. And Carol was asking me things about my story. So what do you do? What is your aspirations? Tell me more about your family. So she explored my story. And at the same time, she was echoing my story with her story in some way. And we again encounter. We weave our stories through dialogue, with love. That's another practice that I found that has been helpful to connect mindfulness, not as an isolation, but a mindfulness bringing everything, relying on everything, finding this empty, enlightened space, sunyata. And the third person is John with J, because I have problems sometimes with the pronunciation. But John, Juanito, it's better. Thank you for being here. John have taught me about vulnerability. Vulnerability is related to open with honesty my life in order to awake your shadows. So we can share our woundedness because there's truth in that woundedness. I think Mahayana teachings connected with also open heart, also connected sometimes with open, like an open wound. I have heard also from Chomjan Trungpa saying the mystic life or the light of enlightened is connected with walking with an open wound. So vulnerability, weaving our stories, and silence can help us to be mindful, heartful, in order to remember the empty space that we are relying on in order to be the other and be the same as the ultimate reality is allowing us to be. We can be a space for the other to be the other. So let's honor these practices doing it. I think we have finished, but let's do one practice. Please stand up. I think in Shambhala there could be a trap that I found. Not a trap. I say could be a trap. We receive wisdom, like breathing, and then we breathe out, learning. We receive, breathing in, wisdom from reality. And we breathe out, learning. Some people don't want that we learn and say everything has to be as always be. That's the trap. It's contradictory with Buddhism because everything is impermanence. So we breathe in the wisdom that is within the traditions, and we breathe out the learning and the change. We breathe in the wisdom within traditions. We breathe out the learning our change, our transformation, that seems different, that speaks different, and that we rely in the empty space of the womb of enlightened. No in the patriarchy idea of lineage. Being enlightened is again breathing in the wisdom from all the efforts of many teachers, of many people, of the trees, of the people whom we rely on. It's not about perfection. It's just finding and experiencing that empty space. And we breathe out, learning and change. Thank you very much.